Well, first of all, thank you very much for coming to speak with us today. Can I ask you a little bit about yourself? And I know you've been a frequent visitor to these conferences, so a little bit about your company and what you do.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for having us again. So my company is called the Canna Consultants, and we're really regulatory advisors. So we've drafted legislation for governments that intend to enter the medicinal cannabis space. We help large companies who are frightened, don't understand the space, to reassure them. And I suppose our driver is to try and achieve best regulatory practice. There's a huge amount of stigma around cannabis. One of the major problems for us is that often the recreational, the adult legalisation lobby try to attach themselves to the medicinal teams. And those, whatever your views are about recreational cannabis, we try and keep as far away from that as possible, which is why Sigma, and I know this sounds corny, but Sigma helps us to remove that stigma. And Malta is unique. We have cannabis conferences globally, but often they marry that recreational and the medical. The medical's a silent voice. So we see people coming to those conferences with medical equipment, but they're next to a stall selling Rizlas and bongs, and there's just a smell of cannabis in the air. Here, last night, I'm talking to consultants, I'm talking to junior doctors who are interested. We're looking at companies that have alternative delivery mechanisms. And there is nowhere else in the world that allows the tech and the cannabis to come together. And we're lucky enough, we're hosting a delegation from the Thai Ministry of Health. And the big problem that they're having at the moment is they want to be able to allow people to self-medicate, but there's a very, very strong political group who are concerned because of prohibition. And they're trying to find ways that they can reassure the other political opponents that allowing someone to grow a plant with CBD isn't going to lead to the kids being stoned. So we were discussing yesterday evening, suggesting, well, a simple law to say anybody who has children under the age of 18 cannot go ahead and do this. So they're learning a huge amount from Malta because they can see that Malta treats cannabis medicine entirely differently to most countries. There isn't that fear, there is regulation, and it's just a wonderful conference.
You were talking about the stigma. When it comes to Malta, for instance, how advanced are we in actually accepting it as an alternative type of medicine?
I think that it's stalled. I think the regime change in COVID hasn't helped anybody. And I think Malta is, again, it's you've got the shackles of the European Union. Germany, proclaims that they're moving forward, but they just simply won't be able to. I think Malta has a centre of excellence which sets it apart. So it has healthcare professionals, it has manufacturers, and it has research and development companies. So I don't think you're as close to the point you wanted to be maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but I do think that Malta is getting there and will get there before many other people.
And when you compare, say, with other countries out there, is there an ideal in your mind that you'd like to be similar to?
No, there is no utopia. All we can do is learn from mistakes. So I think that the American model is a failed model. And again, that's because of a marrying of recreational and medical use. So in Delaware, for example, you go into a dispensary, you take the same product and then you're asked, is this for medical? You go to this till. Is it for recreational? You go to that till. So no distinction. And I think the lack of regulation, there was an embracing of the old guard. So a lot of the cultivation was conducted by people who for 20, 30 years have been considered criminals. And we're now seeing agricultural companies enter this space and pharmaceutical companies because we're just talking about an ingredient. There are lots of lessons to be learnt. Nobody has it right yet. And that's also a generational thing. Whenever I'm discussing the medicine, I try to focus on the words cannabinoids and distinguish from cannabis. You say cannabis to people and they think stoned. We have to be honest as well. People have psychotic episodes. Or cannabis is not good for everybody. So we're talking about a medicine. We're talking about trying to understand how this works. And if we're honest, nobody understands how these drugs work or why they work. And Epidiolex, which is a highly purified CBD produced formerly by GW Pharmaceuticals, it's registered with the European Medicines Agency. And when it says how does it work, it states we don't know. Now, there aren't any other drugs. Every other drug, we understand how it works and why it works. So we've got to be honest. We've got the willow tree. 100 years ago, people didn't know for pain relief, whether you chewed the bark, smoked the leaves, drank the sap. That's where we are with the cannabis plant. We don't know what CBD does. We don't know what CBG does. There are 144, a minimum of 144 cannabinoids. Some will be toxic. Some will be exceptionally beneficial. And our fear is, and goes to your question of is there an ideal model, where we see adult recreational use legalised, not decriminalised, legalised, all of the money, the investment pivots towards getting people stoned. The investment required to understand the medicine is lost.
And tell me, you've been coming to these conferences for a good time, to Sigma, of course, and as well now to MedTech. How important do you think these conferences are for people like yourself?
I think for those of us in the medicinal cannabis space, they are essential. And we've seen our position move from it being sort of in the corner. We now have our own space in the conference, and that's testament to the fact that I'm standing now in front of you. It gives us the opportunity to come together with like-minded people and spend time discussing developments, discussing problems. The Thai government and the Maltese government are learning from each other. And the Maltese government is looking at some of its issues, the Thai government are trying to find solutions. So that exchange of information at government level is incredible.
And as someone with a lot of experience and, should I say, knows what you're talking about, have you, for instance, found the ministries, especially of health and other sectors, accessible to people like yourself and the knowledge that you have?
We have had in Malta, from the first time we were invited to this conference, the Maltese representative from the European Parliament or minister level at every conference and at the dinner in the evening. And there's a level of engagement that we don't find in other countries. So from a support and access perspective, Malta leads the way.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We wish you the best of luck and we hope to see you continuing to attend the conferences. Thank you
very much.